Hi, everyone. Good morning. Thanks for being here. Before I begin, I just wanted to ask, can you raise your hand if you are a current or former grantee of ours? That is great. So we're looking forward to continuing our work with you and developing relationships with the rest of you. So this is kind of a big picture on how we think about our grant making. We like to fund sustainable projects that have a regional impact. We like to fund programs that leverage additional resources back into the region, and also programs that promote collaboration. So let me get into a little bit of each of those. So when we say sustainable, we're really thinking about the sustainability of the specific program as well as the sustainability of your overall organization. So we want to know that the moment the grant is over, it doesn't mean that that program is necessarily over as well. We also want to know that you're securing other funding sources and pursuing other opportunities as well to keep the work going. And we also like for our grants to be helpful at key times in your program's growth. So sometimes that may mean that you're starting a new program. Other times it may mean that you're expanding an existing program. And sometimes it could mean that you've been running a program successfully for many years and a particular cost could enhance your program and make it that much better. One of our revisions to our guidelines this year is that we're now looking at sustainability with an additional lens. We've learned a lot, as Katie talked about, through our work in greenways and other programs in the environment. So we're wanting to know that grants we make are contributing to the sustainability of the environment and our economy as well as the region. In terms of regional impact, we are based in Detroit, but like Katie mentioned, we are a 7-county funder. So we don't require that your program is in all 7 counties, but we like to know that work happening in one area can connect to work happening in another part of the region. In terms of leveraging resources, we want to help you leverage additional resources back into the region and into your organization. So sometimes we have served as a match to federal or state dollars. We've helped with leveraging individual donors. So it's good for us to know that you're actively working to increase your fundraising capacity. And finally, collaboration is great for us when it makes sense. We don't want it to be forced, but we often get a lot of similar proposals from organizations in the same geography, so it's good to know how you're working with others who are doing similar work. It's easier for us to kind of make a grant or do work in one space when groups are working together. We have 4 official deadlines in the year. You are welcome to submit your application throughout the year, but if you apply by one of those deadlines, you will hear back within 4 months. So keep that in mind when you're applying. So if we are able to make a grant, we want to know that the pieces are in place that you can get moving as soon as that grant is made. And on the flip side, we want to know that your project isn't necessarily over by the time you'd hear from us. So our grant making guidelines, like I mentioned, were updated this year in January, and they're a great starting place. We don't have many changes for those of you who have worked with us in the past, but a couple things that have changed. So we are becoming more flexible over how much time a grant is spent. So that doesn't necessarily mean that it's renewable, but if you're applying for a $40,000 grant and it makes more sense for you to have 30 in the first year and 10 in the second, we know that that's helpful. It has been helpful for organizations to leverage additional resources, so we can have that conversation as well. The guidelines that I keep talking about, the grant-making guidelines, are a great place to start, so I would suggest that you read through them and familiarize yourself with them and then give us a call. We'll say that a lot. It's really important to call us. It's a great opportunity for us to learn about what you're doing and then to also help you understand how we work and maybe advise you on a particular time to apply or a particular part of your program to apply for. We have been working in the last 6 months. We've transitioned to an online system, so that's new for those of you who have worked with us before. It's working well, we think, and so I'm going to walk through a couple of the screenshots just so you familiarize yourself with what that looks like. At the top of our website, you'll see the Apply for a Grant section. So once you click there, that'll take you to the portal that shows our grant-making guidelines and how to start an application or return to one. When you begin an application, you'll be asked to create a username and password. And so I would suggest that you write that down, keep it handy. That's the same one that you'll be using to come back to the same application or at another time down the line, start a new application altogether. You can continue to use that. So we have a few pre-application questions that we ask to determine eligibility. So for the most part, you'll be applying to our general grant-making program. There are a few other unique opportunities that I'll address later, but make sure that you select the program that you're applying for here. So for all of our competitive grant-making programs, we require that an organization has a certified financial audit or a financial review. If you'd like to know more, there's a very helpful document right there, where it says here, that compares an audit and a financial review and kind of the details out what both of those are. Our board requires that we make grants to audited entities to ensure that there's a third party watching the use of the funds. And also, we want to really help organizations on the path to overall sustainability, and with that comes being able to leverage additional, is it federal dollars or other grants from other foundations, and most of those people require an audit. So we would say don't just get an audit for us, but it's a good thing to have overall. And another addition to our guidelines, we're now, and I said earlier, we're accepting a financial review. We've worked increasingly with smaller organizations, knowing that an audit may not be financially feasible every year, and so a review is acceptable, but you'd want to call us and talk to us about that anyway. So here's a preview of the first screen that you'll see when you log in. You'll notice that it says helpful hints, and we think that they are very helpful, so please read through those before you get into your application. At the top of the screen where you see 1 through 6, you can click through. You don't have to go in any particular order. You can always save and finish later. It says at the bottom of the screen. We won't see your application until you fully submit it. So feel free to go in and out of the application. We just know that it's in progress, but we won't look into it until it's submitted. And so there are some questions, just to let you know what it looks like inside, there are some questions that you'll have to answer directly in the body of the application, and some things that would be submitted as attachments. There's no particular required format for your narrative. We just ask that you answer the questions and tell your story well. Another new thing is that we are requiring a particular budget template that's in Excel format, and it helps us on the reviewing end to have that consistency there. So here are some of those unique opportunities for applying. Like I said, overall you'd be applying just to us in general, but here are some key things that are some other opportunities. So the DADA, Detroit Auto Dealers Association Fund, that's what Katie mentioned. That's a fund that focuses on children and youth programs. There's the Hope Fund that supports nonprofit organizations serving the local lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender communities. The Youth Leadership Fund that really focuses on building youth as leaders in the community. And then we have 2 affiliate funds, Chelsea Community Foundation and Community Foundation for Livingston County, that serve their respective geographies. So I'll just pause a moment, hand it off to Katie to talk about those 2, and then I'll come back.
And we know we don't have too many people in here today from Chelsea or Livingston, but I did just want to go into these for a second. We have a wonderful committee of people in Chelsea that established the Chelsea Community Foundation that's specific to that geography. Rather than being a separate community foundation, they affiliated with us, which means, again, that we help manage their grant process, they manage the assets. But I do mention this, though, too, because there's been projects like the Purple Rose Theater got a grant last year, where part of the grant is actually them partnering with the Macomb Center for the Arts and other people around the region. So just be aware that that's part of us. Also, the Community Foundation for Livingston County. We have a local group of folks in Livingston who are really working hard to build a fund to specifically benefit that county. And again, even if you're not there, just know that we are very active in that county. We just made a grant, to example, to their educational authority that's county-wide to work on kindergarten readiness. So some of these programs that they might come out of there, we often will have kind of lessons learned that we bring to other parts of the geography.
So you can look through our website to learn more about the specifics of each of these, but for the most part, they all follow the Community Foundation's general guidelines with a few nuances. So that phone call, again, is really important here, because we may be able to, depending on your project and the time that you're calling, we may be able to advise you to apply to a specific opportunity. So overall, that we recommend that if you have an open grant with us right now, that you wait until it's closed, that you submit the final report, and that we officially close it out before applying to a new one. There may be an opportunity in some cases, like with the DADA or the Hope Fund, that your group might be applying in the same year to our general program and to a specific opportunity, but you should again call us to see what the best opportunity is there. You know, people really ask for what's the appropriate dollar amount. There's no magic number. But typically our grants are between 30 and 75,000. And so in some cases we make larger grants, but you should know that the larger the request is, the more competitive it gets. So that's another thing to talk about when you call us. And if an organization, if you're new altogether or you're new in working with us, we ask that you kind of come in on a more modest request so that we can spend some time getting to know you and building our relationship. So I think telling your story well is one of the key tips that we can offer here. So you are the experts. We know that you're doing great work, but it's important for us to understand what that work is. So make sure to be clear on what your organization is doing and what your specific program is doing, assuming that we don't know too much about that. The level of detail is up to you. but we should be able to understand the needs your program is addressing and the rationale behind why is this a good project to do at this time and why does this make sense for your organization. Also, another suggestion, try to stay away from using too many acronyms or abbreviations. That gets a little challenging if they're throughout the application. So make sure your budget adds up. Seems pretty obvious, but it's really important to double and triple check your line items. We have included a narrative column in our budget template, and I would strongly recommend to use that to be as detailed as possible there. It's good for us to know what each of those line items mean. We might come back to you and ask you questions about it, but the more detail you can provide there, the better. I would include all the appropriate items, so when you read through the grant making guidelines, you'll see what all you need to include, so make sure that you have uploaded all of that. Again, if there's things that happen after you submit your application, we can always talk about if we need additional information or if you want to provide us with additional information. So with that said, please don't wait until the last few days before a deadline to call us. This is really important because we work to be really accessible to you. Like Miriam said, call us and we will call you right back in a couple days. So make sure that you give some time. We might even offer some suggestions for you that may say, maybe you should think about getting a letter of support from this organization or something like that, things that require some time. So allow some time before the deadline to give us a call. I'm going to stop here before we pass it off to the second half.